You see me good?
Yes, I can
Okay.
see you. Everybody can see you. It's funny, I'm laughing because I'm on LinkedIn and every time I do one of these, the start of it is kind of wonky. And so LinkedIn is working itself out. I see the wheels spinning. And then
Right.
Facebook is funny because so we're live on Facebook, but they automatically default the privacy to private so no one can see it. And so I was like, make that make sense. What's the point of going live by yourself if no one can see it? So I always have to change the audience. So the first 30 seconds are always loads of fun. But we're live. I've
And
checked. We're live
yes.
LinkedIn, we're live on Facebook, and we are live on YouTube. So good morning and
Good
happy
morning.
Thursday. Welcome to our episode 14 of Entrepreneurs Unplugged. I'm Tanisha Stallnaker of SVS. We are your go to automation technical solutions agency, and we are live. And it's been a couple of weeks, so I'm super excited to be back. And I'm excited to have my guest, LaTanya Orr, with me. It's been a while since we connected, so we've been catching up, but I always want to make sure that people get a chance to introduce themselves. So tell the people about yourselves, LaTanya.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you again, Tanisha, for having me on your show today. Oh my God, there's so much going on with me, but just a little bit about me. Again, I'm a brand strategist, born and raised in Chicago, lived 35 years plus in the state of Michigan. So really, Michigan's kind of the second home, but the first second home, if I could have that. And so, long and short, I'm stepping out here on faith and have endeavored to be a business owner twice. So this is number two business for me, and it is a sort of a shift from having my own marketing and design agency for the last 20 plus years, which those services will be offered through now new business, the Founder Suite here in Chicago. It is a women's collaborative co-working space, and we'll be offering business to business services. And so, of course, again, my marketing and design services will be offered through the suite along with other specialties, if you will, through the boutique services.
Wonderful. So your introduction has led me to some questions and things like that. So I always love it. For anybody that's just joining us for the first time, the whole reason that I started Entrepreneur Unplugged was because in the years that I've been an entrepreneur, and no, it is not nearly as long as Latanya, so I have all kinds of questions, but um, I've watched so many scripted it felt like a TV show when you get on
Ah,
these entrepreneur lives and everyone looks perfect and everybody's lives have been perfect and they might have had a hard time, but you know, through the grace of whatever they've now come through it and everything's great and they make multiple 6 and 7 figures a month and life is perfect. And it was like, well, we're the normal people, we're
right,
the people
normal.
fighting to grow and things like that. And so I wanted to show that entrepreneurs are real people and especially women, and that we all have lives and we might be wives and mothers and entrepreneurs and all the things all at the same time. And so I just wanted to have a platform where we could just have a normal conversation and just
Awesome.
happen to invite others in to the normal conversation. So I always give the disclaimers of my life. I got the dogs, I got the kid, I got the husband. Anything can bust in this door at any time. So far, so good in all of these. But I like to give that disclaimer. But you mentioned the shift from the business that you had to now your women co-working space. So my first question, I guess, is what drove the shift?
Well, actually, we probably don't have enough time for that full conversation,
Yep.
but 30 plus years ago, I wanted to open a what they then call shared office space. I was introduced to someone who was opening up a space in Michigan, and I thought the idea was just novel, like really. When I was 25 years old, I didn't have the support that I have now. And so was, sort of discouraged in opening up a shared office space, which now, of course, the new words are collaborative and co-working and all of the, sort of the last 10 years, that's sort of the new thing. But that's what I wanted to do 30 plus years ago is what I'm doing today.
I think
Yeah.
that's amazing, for a couple of reasons. One, because, there's a lot of people that, 30 years later, they would be telling the story of, oh, I wish I had done this. And I always wanted to be a dancer, but never did it, versus, locking into that vision and making it happen. I
Yes.
think that's amazing, and still growing something in the meantime while you were, working on that vision. So, I wasn't quite sure exactly what you wanted to focus on in this conversation, and that's fine, because you have so much experience that I literally could pull from marketing tips to branding tips to just survival tips and
Oh
success
my.
stories and all of those things. So, I always love to invite the women, and I do say women intentionally because I try to focus on women in business more than anything. But the women that I bring on, I always just love for them to educate the audience in whatever they feel is the most important thing. Now, of course, I have questions. I guess one of them being
Ask
30 years.
away.
Okay, 30 years, the market would have shifted at least 52
Mhm.
times. And so,
Yeah.
between the recessions, pandemics, all of those things, just trends, the growth of social media, the growth of all the different platforms that you can be on, to be able to sustain that long. While, yes, we could spend all day going through it, what would you say, I guess, has been like the biggest driver for you in being able to keep pushing through all of that shift?
I always wanted to be a business owner. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. It is in my blood. So my grandparents were entrepreneurs. They're we call the pioneers of entrepreneurship, farmers. My mother's side, my dad's side. My grandfather was a builder. He was the builder of all the black homes in Savannah. And
Amazing.
so, yeah, that was very significant. He was also the president of NAACP. And so, when you had to go basically closeted to have the meetings, and so that's in my blood. That's in my blood to be an entrepreneur. And I mean, I worked corporately. I worked, professionally for many years. Not a long time in corporate, about 15. And I, even in that, I was doing freelance. I was freelancing the design, particularly, at that time, more of the design side of my business. But I always knew that, in my heart, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't want to work for anyone else. I sort of knew, and maybe that I knew that intrinsically, that um, if I'm going to work, that I want to work for myself, for my family, for my legacy. It's been hard. I mean, my goodness, this ain't no joke. And people, what's that movie, Hustle and Flow? It's hard out here for a pimp. This is not for the faint of heart. There have been months, or I would say, I remember one month in particular, Tanisha, where I paid all my bills. I was single at the time. I paid all my bills. I had $1 in my wallet. And all I could do was look around my space, like, where I was living at the time, and say, thank God that I had the dollar, one, but then also all of my bills, my car note, car insurance, everything, my rent, everything was paid. But I had nothing in the bank per se.
Mhm.
And but there was still just this great satisfaction that, one, the grace of God that He has sustained me through it all. Married, unmarried, married, widowed, married. And that in itself is another story that I could tell. Oh, whoa, I could tell you that story. But just being, I don't know, I guess, driven, the ambition, the just knowing that I wanted to walk out my purpose, and I learned that early on as well. And so with that, I just knew that entrepreneurship was for me. Bottom line.
So it's interesting for two reasons. One, entrepreneurship, I don't know that it definitely was not in my blood at all. And yes, I agree. Oh my God, because it was not in my blood. But what was in my blood was the drive of not freedom, but being valued for my strengths and my intelligence. And while I got pieces of that in corporate, at the end of the day, it was so about numbers. I think one of the last places that I worked as a recruiter for years, I had 3 positions to fill. I filled them in a couple of days. And what I got was, well, it's great that you filled it, but you were supposed to make 100 calls to fill it. And I was like, I have relationships where I don't need to make those 100 calls. And they were like, but we have metrics. And I understand it, but I'm not calling 97 people for a job I already filled because I already had the relationship to fill those 3. But it was that type of thing of clearly I have the skill. Clearly I have the ability to build relationships. Clearly I have knowledge. What I didn't have was patience to deal with like the minutia of corporate. So, you know, when I got laid off that last time, and there's some stories there, I just decided I can't, I think maybe I'm just a terrible employee. Not literally, but kind of, to where it was like, that's the driver for me. But you made up another point that my husband and I just debated, that dollar. There's been plenty of times where, yes, the bills have been paid. There's been times where not all the bills have been paid. But, you know, those months where the bills are paid, and at least for that week, I don't owe anyone any money and nothing. There should be no financial surprises. And I got that $1. And, you know, I just think it does not make sense. But that whole thing of, you know, even my mom's like, you know, what do you mean you don't have any money? I was like, everybody's paid though. And it's okay. I got a little bit of food. I'm not starving to death. I got a roof over my head. So for the immediate time, I'm okay. But my grandfather used to always say, as long as you can put your hands on $1, you're never broke. And so the other day, my husband was in my car and he's like, what's this random dollar in the car? I was like, don't touch the dollar. I have one in the house too. And I was like, I intentionally do that. And they've been there for years, even times where that's the only money I can put my hands on. I just look at it and it's just that reminder of I'm still good. And so, of course, my husband, he was like, your grandfather was wrong. If all you have is $1, you're poor. I was like, listen, sir, what you're not going to do is tell me what my granddaddy said and that he's wrong, because that's not happening. But we've started this debate back and forth now of that whole mentality. And he was like, maybe in his time, inflation, the dollar. I was like, it's not because the dollar was going to save the world. It was just the symbolism of, if you can put your hands on that dollar, you can put your hands on others and other things will come. So it was just interesting when you brought up that final dollar, because I got 2 hidden in plain sight, just as a reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I know you've seen this in you know, people, particularly in brick and mortar establishments. The person will frame that first $100 that they've made because it's significant, to as a reminder. And I might do what you're doing. At least put the dollar right here and don't spend it. But as a motivator and an inspiration, that, you know what, exactly what you said. I mean, we put so much emphasis on, of course, making the dollar.
Yeah.
But it's greater than that. It's bigger than that. It's about being fulfilled. It's about, again, you know, the whole, your destiny revealed in your purpose, and knowing that you're making a difference. And although we need to make the money, of course, and, you know, a lifestyle that we enjoy, and to be able to take care of our families, and again, to leave a legacy, those are the things that really is important. And when when I was working corporate, I enjoyed my jobs because I was actually learning my craft, if you will. So I worked jobs sort of intentionally, although I didn't even think I was doing it intentionally at the time. But they were definitely stepping stones to where I am now, and being able to then, you know, have a pivot or a shift in my career path, but then knowing that this is still in alignment with my purpose. Yeah, with my purpose.
I love that. So let's talk, since you said there's going to be some components of this in your space, marketing and branding, mainly marketing. You know, marketing, if you ask 10 people, even entrepreneurs, you're going to get 10 different answers. So for you, what has been the focus of marketing, and was your focus still pretty much female entrepreneurs, or what kind of businesses were you supporting?
Yeah, so I mean, early on in professionally, again, I go back to corporate. I did every aspect of marketing. So the research side, media side, the PR side, the design, creative side. So pretty much every aspect of marketing I touched. And in that, I discovered that my gift or where my talents lie was design, but
Okay.
then marrying it with branding. And so because you can have all the beautiful design in the world and not have the branding in place. So it's
I've
not
had
going to make any sense.
that's been me before.
Yeah, and we've all experienced that. I mean, but it's like, you don't despise small beginnings. You start somewhere and then grow from there. As long as you have some, idea or have, I always say, sounding board, mentors, people who that you can go to and get, sound counsel from, and know that, and be able to, take constructive criticism, um, and not feel like you know it all. And that's a big thing with us, particularly women. We wear all these different hats. We wear, we're wives, we're mothers, we're, aunts, we're women that serve in church, or we're got, just in the community. We're doing so many things, and then with sort of identifying so where your strengths are and what's important to you. And so when I think of branding, I think of more of that. Like, it's about what you promise to
Mhm.
your customer. I mean, at the end of the day, it's um, and I've been through this with clients, when they want to, they're starting out and they don't have a business name. Okay, so what are you doing? Who are you? And it's not about so much what you do, but who are you? What is it that you want to be known for? And that's branding. I mean, so when you think of it corporately, of course, of course, you got the big three, you've got, Nike, you've got all these, this different, the larger mainstream companies. And when you say their names, if they all have a brand name, they all have something that resonates with them, particularly, like I said, because I was in Michigan for so long, with the big three, you got GM, they all have something that is staying power,
Yeah.
and and that's important. It's what is it that you want to be known for generations.
So you, boy, listen, let me find out I needed this conversation today. It's funny that you were talking about for the longest time with branding when I started my business. And again, I will tell my story very many times to say, this is not what I had on my bingo card. Entrepreneurship was not on my bingo card. Starting a business in January 2020 was not on my bingo card until I got laid off in November of 2019. And I had no real plan aside from the fact of, I'm going to put everything into it because I can't go back to work. Or at least if I do go back to work, it's going to have to be like the thing that lights me up so much. And until I find that, there's no other option.
Sure.
But with that, when I started to hear marketing and branding, I'd worked for a marketing department for years for a hospital system. That was essentially sales and relationships. That's what they meant by marketing. And that's what I knew. But when I got into the online space and people started talking about branding and somebody asked me, who are you? I literally froze. I was like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of things, but I think for a lot of people, especially in that beginning first few year stages, you know, yes, there are some unicorns that come through day one knowing exactly who they are going into entrepreneurship. But then there's a lot of me's out there where it just takes some time. It
Yeah.
wasn't until this past year that I could look somebody in the face and they say, what are you? I'm a leader. And I don't mean that in the sense of I'm going to march an army down a hill. I mean, I am a fixer. If you bring me a problem, I will find a solution, even if I'm not going to be the person to implement that solution. That is absolutely my gift and superpower in business, in life, in swimming, in mothering, in friending, all of the things. I am that person that people come to deal with a problem.
Yeah.
And I shied away from it for a very long time. So now in business, I'm trying to figure out especially as an agency owner, how do I make that a brand? Because that's my thing. But then it's like, is that the agency's thing? I guess kind of. But so, there's so many moving parts to the marketing and the branding. Yes, the first part is being able to answer the question of like, well, who are you? But then also, how do you tell people that, and how do you get
Right.
out to people?
Exactly.
So, you know,
Exactly.
what would you, I guess, what advice do you have? I'm really asking for myself. I'm just going to be very open about
No,
it.
that's absolutely, that is absolutely
Open
fine.
about it.
That's absolutely fine. I guess when you say you're a fixer, and so I've always, I did a spiritual gift assessment many years ago, and what even 20 years ago, maybe it was 25 years ago, that I did this assessment, and it still holds true for me that at the end of the day, I'm an exhorter, so I'm somebody that's going to come along, I'm going to cheer you on. I'm going to be, people say, oh, they'll say to me, Tanya, what do you think? I said, well, what do you feel? How do you feel about it? What's again goes back to what's your heart motive as it relates to, your career, but then it's also about your work life, period. Life. Just, we're all lifing and we're all lifing at a different level now since the pandemic.
Amen.
And so even since the pandemic, I think there's there's been some tremendous growth. Obviously, I mean, look at statistics for entrepreneurs, particularly women entrepreneurs. There were those of us that were thrusted because of the pandemic to working from home. And so I have those questions all the time. Tanya, how have you worked from home? How over the 20 plus years, and, even my mom said to me, she says, you were working virtually before there was ever a virtual.
Yeah.
Okay. So these newer, the newer nuances and the aspects that have sort of popped up or, just have happened as relate to something that we were all pushed into or thrusted into, or it just happened, it happened around us, and so we had to, again, that whole pivot and shift and all of those kinds of things. And so people found out in that, well, you know what, maybe I don't need to work you know in an office space, I can work from home. But then there's discipline in working from home that I knew, so those are some of the questions that I've been asked. Well, how do you not get up and go to the refrigerator every 15 minutes? How do you look over to go to your bedroom and not take a nap every 15 minutes? So those are things. And I'm like, you know what? I never really thought about those things because I've been doing and I've been practicing it for 20 plus years, working as a solopreneur with a computer, with a laptop, being traveling with my laptop, taking those, doing projects. I've had some, ailing parents, being able to get in the car, drive to Chicago, stay 2, 3 weeks looking after my dad, being with my mom, my sister, to be, sort of to assist in that process. Not to say that I did a whole lot, but just, to be able to be here and mobile. Well, I discovered all that in the 20 plus years that I've been an entrepreneur. That if you have, I've taken my computer to Bermuda. I mean, I've been every place with my laptop. And so those are things that I did pre-pandemic that, sort of like, I don't want to say old hat, but it was just, that's part of my business life.
Yeah.
And, that was the flexibility, which is one another reason why I've always enjoyed being an entrepreneur. I don't work 9 to 5, but then with that, but the flip side of that is I don't get a check every 2 weeks either. So, you know, so there's all of those kinds of things that I have, been challenged with, and also either and pushing through, you know, that's it, just the push through, and sometimes the pull through.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels a bit of like a
Yeah,
drag through
yeah,
kicking and screaming.
so a tug of war between the two. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I always jokingly say, since I'd worked virtually for a few years before starting the business, Zoom was something that I was part of for a long time. And I just wish that crystal ball had been clear enough for me to invest in Zoom January 2020, because we might not even be on this call right now, quite frankly, or at least if we are, my background will be the beach, you know,
Yeah,
'cause
similar to my pool back here, right? I say that also. Zoom is one thing, but I've used the Macintosh. I've used Apple computers 30 years, and that was one of the things my dad actually said to me is that buying all these computers, you should have been buying some stock. Well, when it first came out, that was in the 80s. So if you imagine, no, I'd be just like you. I'd be on somebody's private island someplace because I would be rich if I had bought stock in Apple.
rich. Yeah.
Rich, right? So, but hindsight being 2020, and then I guess we learn from those things, and if you can, even now, you can diversify your portfolios. I've been learning a little bit about what I need to do in that regard as well, um, which brings me to, with opening up my business, I actually took my money um, out of my 401 to do this. So I have self-funded this business from the beginning, and not everybody has money to self-fund, and so or want to take their money out of retirement, particularly if you have family and
Yeah.
children. And so I don't have any children. So for me, it was like, well, this is my baby. So I'm going to invest.
So
And
let's talk about the baby.
yeah, the baby.
The baby's born tomorrow, right?
The baby is born tomorrow, technically tomorrow, yes.
All right, well, let's talk about it. I'm excited for you, and now I wish we were closer. It's funny, I don't tend to leave the house for a whole lot of things, but I do like a good co-working space.
Mm.
One specifically geared towards, female entrepreneurs sounds also like something I would enjoy. So if you ever decide to expand to the Hampton Roads area, please let me know. But let's talk about
What's
what's
up?
available in your space and, where people can find it.
So I am located, the space, again, the Founders Suite is located in a um, community in Chicago. So, and I think most urban cities have neighborhoods that have names. And so this is in the Beverly community in Chicago, on Chicago's excuse me, South Side. It's in the heart of South Side. Most co-working, all those kinds of places are, yeah. And I'm in Chicago, so of course most of that is in the Loop. So downtown services, you can pretty much find co-working on every corner, every building. Somebody's got a co-working space. But when you come into the inner city, there's just absolutely nothing. It's like a ghost town. And so that was one of the motivations for me to open it up in a neighborhood that I actually grew up going through all of my life. I've gone through Beverly. And so it's pretty much, it's still an affluent area in Chicago. It's one of those pockets where you kind of like the outer skirts of the inner city, and you have, so there's the areas that are not so favorable. I'll just be nice about that. But this is sort of like centered in there, and so very nice. It's walkable. It's all different types of shops and boutiques, and I'm on the here in Chicago. We have just like probably pretty much like like New York, where you have the bus, the train station. So we have our elevated train, metro. So I'm a block from there, and the metro goes from sort of the southwest suburbs, this particular line, southwest suburbs of Chicago, into downtown. So it's strategically located in terms of that. I'm in a community again that is a lot of small businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs that actually live in the community, lot of shops, a lot of stores, and so it's sort of a really nice. I guess I would call it like an enclave of where business going on, family life's going on, uh, and it's sort of BIPOC mix, between it's us, it's everybody, very much a melting pot space, or community, and so yeah, so it's a nice spot, and sort of ideal. Nothing, absolutely, again, nothing in the area remotely, other than, of course, you can go to your coffee shops
Yeah.
and co-work, if you will, or at least be able to have some type, meetings and that sort of thing. This is a, designated co-working space for women, but of course, men are welcome.
How big is the space?
So 2,300 square feet, so a nice size.
Nice.
I have two main conference rooms. One is I'm kind of designating as a flex space because there's a beautiful wood floor in there. So if anyone wanted to be able to do yoga, different type of exercise, could be used for crafts, that particular room. Then I have another, as I said, so it's two conference rooms. I have a living room lounge space.
Mhm.
Two private offices, hot desk office space. I'm building out a podcast studio. Again, a ghost town. You have to go north to be able to get to some of the podcast studio spaces here. So nothing on the south side. Um, and I have a treatment room. So I was asked about, well, what if I wanted to be, what if there was a massage therapist or an esthetician who wanted to have a space? So I have a room specifically for that. Am I missing anything? That that's it. That's
It's
enough.
funny, I don't
That's a
think
lot.
people realize the value, and some might now, but with co-working, especially when everyone had to go online, I had a client friend who used to film all of her fitness videos and different things, and she
Mm,
different co-working spaces because it was typically the lighting is really good. It's an open space. If you find it when it's not like on the weekends where there are not as many people there, you have more access to things, but you can change the scenery or you could use the same room so that people started to understand that that room and that scenery meant that this was going to be another updated video. So, I've seen different people use co-working spaces to film content and things like that because it's a clean area and they can kind of, change the scenery without being in their own home and showing all of their stuff. So I think that's amazing that you were doing it. I think it's amazing you're doing it in general, but I think it's also amazing that you're doing it in an area that you don't have lots of that going around, but it's still
yeah.
enough of a population to support it. So I'm very excited for you. I'm sorry I won't be in Chicago tomorrow, but for anybody
You're
that
welcome anytime.
anybody that's in the area, please go and check it out. Take some pictures with LaTanya and tag me and let me know. So I'm so excited. Otherwise, where can people find you?
So we have an online presence. It's www.thefound, FOUND, hers, HERS, suite.com. So thefoundersuite.com. That's where you'll
Awesome,
find us.
awesome, awesome. And I will make sure that information gets sent out in our emails and follow up. But you can find the replay, of course, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on YouTube. You'll find some YouTube shorts of this conversation as well. And you can also follow us and find some shorts on TikTok. So I am slowly evolving into all of the spaces. Instagram did not cooperate today, but we'll probably post some clips there as well. But if you're not following us on YouTube, please do so that you make sure that you can catch the replays of this and all of our conversations on Entrepreneurs Unplugged. Otherwise, and thank you so much for putting it here as the site for you, thefoundhersuite.com. Make sure you visit, follow, support, check it out. And if you're in the Chicago area, check out the Founder Suite space, the co-working space. So thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you. And like I said, it's been a while since we talked, and I'm just glad we were able to connect. And I
Yes.
look forward to the next conversation.
Awesome. Thank you again. It's been a pleasure. It's been a wonderful day. Time to start my day. Our
There you
day.
go. Take